Good morning. Guys awake? Nagwang talung ba? So I want to talk about Native Public Media first of all. We've been around for a while. We're a nonprofit and we serve American Indian and Alaska Native villages through media and communications. And if you don't know, there are about 60 radio and 3 television stations across Indian country licensed to tribes and tribal entities. And we're a growing network, so a shout out to GRBC's television station, that's Gila River. They're in the back. In 2010, Native Public Media contributed to the FCC National Broadband Plan. I was, around that time, the chair of the Telecommunications Subcommittee for NTTA. That's how I met Godfrey, who was the chair before, several chairs before I was. So we at Native Public Media, we also advocate for policies that utilize broadcast and broadband assets that really support communities, including the technologies of the integrated public alert and warning system that my friend Kenyon here from FEMA is going to talk more about, the emergency alert system that every radio and TV station has to have as part of their infrastructure, and the wireless emergency alerts. But here's what I want to talk about today. I've been really just fascinated by the conversation happening yesterday, also this morning, about technology. We're all like technology wonks in the room. And that's just beautiful because when I started, my first talk about broadband was to a room full of 4 people, myself and 2 from the FCC and 1 other tribal person. And it's really great to see so many more today. But let me tell you something. Technology is really about people. It's not about so much the hardware, which is important, but let me tell you why technology is important today. And I'll tell you a story first. On the Hopi Reservation in northeastern Arizona, my mother's younger brother was last seen September 1st, 2013. My uncle, Eugene Vernon Kalnemptiwa, left the village store after work, and the store's video camera captured his image at 7:12 p.m. as he walked out the door. He was reported missing 10 days later, and searches were conducted by the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Hopi Resource Enforcement Services, but Eugene was never found. His information was placed in the National and Arizona Crime Information Centers, and these centers share information about missing and endangered persons. Flyers about Eugene were posted across the reservation, but like I said, he was never found alive. So most of us think that this issue of missing and endangered and murdered individuals will never reach our families, that we're still separated by 3 degrees or more. That's not true. It can happen to families everywhere at any day, at any time. How many of you here know of a person in your community or your family of someone that has been murdered, missing, or endangered? Let's see some hands. This is something that's real, and thousands of families have suffered similar traumas across Indian country and nationwide. And the data is not consolidated in one giant clearinghouse. It's in states, it's on tribal lands, it's at some of the federal agencies. But let me just tell you a couple of notes here. In 2016, a few years after when Eugene went missing, there were 5,712 reports of missing Native and women and girls, but only 116 cases were logged in the Department of Justice database, according to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Now let's jump to 2022. More than 10,000, that's correct, 10,000, Indigenous people were reported missing through the FBI's National Crime Information Center. That's higher than any other population in the United States. And you have to remember that these are only reported cases. I just looked up the FBI National Crime Information Center stats. In 2023, it was slightly higher than 10,000. So not much has changed. And when I looked at the overall caseload of tracking by the same center, I had to show L because I couldn't believe it. It was about 2.7 billion.
Billion with a B, yes.
2.7 billion missing and endangered persons in the FBI's National Crime Information Center. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a problem in this country. But what can we do about it? The Missing and Endangered Persons Event Code was proposed by Native Public Media, and it works like the Amber Alert. And let me just state one thing. We have the right to be safe and secure anytime, anywhere, right? Absolutely. Now, this machinery, this alerting works on iPause. Now, if you haven't heard about iPause, it'll become a regular part of your, hopefully your language, because iPause is one of the most comprehensive alerting systems that exists in the nation. It's the president's road to the public in terms of communication. It's available in all 50 states and US territories. And iPause allows alerts, which is super crucial in the first 48 hours of a person that is missing or endangered. That's when we should be the most alarmed. We should be out trying to locate these individuals and try to ramp up our rescue efforts. These alerts will go over radio, it'll go over television, the internet, and other platforms. That's how powerful this machine is. But let me talk about one more thing, and Al's going to talk about this a little bit more. There are over, let's see, where I am, okay. There are over 1,600 alerting authorities nationwide. They're tribal, they're state, there are other local authorities from different jurisdictions. Local authorities issue critical public alerts in their jurisdiction. I talked to law enforcement just a few weeks ago and I asked them, what's the biggest barrier or hurdle to trying to address missing and endangered adults in the US? And they said, we have so many jurisdictional issues. Well, the MEP code is available across 50 states, as I mentioned. It's going to provide a uniform way of early alerting to the public. And I just want to say this to the tribal leaders that are in the room today. We need more participation from tribal nations to effectively address missing and endangered adults across tribal jurisdictions. Right now, we have a dozen. Thank you to the Chickasaw Nation. They're the most recent alerting authority, but we need more. If you're laying down broadband, wire for iPause, your participation in iPause as well. Somebody said there were smart towns and cities as part of the ecosystem that you're seeking. Well, let's have some smart tribal nations as well. And we recommend that you flex your broadband sovereignty to make women and girls and indigenous men and boys safe and secure in this country. Now, the MEP Event Code is a multi-federal agency and tribal effort, and we want you to join this effort. And right now, I just want to thank the tribal leaders, the National Tribal Telecommunications Association, and the National Congress of American Indians for lending their support to this effort. And one more thing, we're not done with this process. The rulemaking has kicked off. We're waiting for the rules to be published in the Federal Register. When it's published, guys, pay attention. Check the Federal Register for the FCC. The FCC will seek comments. from everybody from the public, and you don't have to be a lawyer to submit comments. If you just want to say, I support the MEP, that's powerful. All of you have a say, and I invite you to participate. Also, if you need updates, go to nativepublicmedia.org. We're on top of this issue and we're providing updates. I'm talking to everybody and anybody out there. And right now, I want to pass the mic over to Al Kenyon, who is from FEMA. When I talked with Al Kenyon about a year ago, it was an aha moment. I've been doing radio and television since 2004. And it dawned on me that we had this powerful system, and I said, why don't we have an event code for missing adults? We have one for children, we have the senior alert, but we don't have one for missing and endangered adults. And that's where we're connected at the hip. And it's wonderful that FEMA's on board, the FCC is on board, and that's a good.
Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to present. She mentioned what IPAWS is. It's Integrated Public Alert and Warning System. You've probably never heard of it before. How many of you have received an Amber Alert, a flash flood warning, something on your cell phone where you didn't sign up for it, it just showed up? IPAWS is the way that those alerts get to the wireless carriers, the wireless service providers, and your tribe, your tribal nation can originate them. As Laura said, there are 12 tribes that are currently signed up to do that. And we're talking to plenty more. IPAWS serves as a connector between alerting authorities across the country. We're up to about 1,800 actually now, between tribes, territories, states, counties, cities. Any one of them can originate alert when they need to. They don't have to ask somebody else. They push the buttons, and about a second or so later, it shows up on your phone. It gets passed to the radio and TV stations. Every radio and TV station has to have an EAS device there. Those devices monitor IPAWS. So it's an instant connection, not only to cell phones, but to the radio stations, the TV stations, and the cable operations. We serve as an aggregator between local alerting authorities. All the messages that emergency messages that organizations want to send come into this central clearinghouse. So why are we talking to IT people? Okay, this block right here, IPAWS Open Aggregator, it stores all the messages in Common Alerting Protocol. It's an international standard. For the geeks among you, it's stored in an XML file. It's real easy to parse out and pull out the pieces you want. If you want to ingest stuff from IPAWS, I can get you hooked up this afternoon if you want to receive alerts from IPAWS and put them to use in your system. As far as smart cities, we have a couple of companies that do kiosks, like where you walk around in some cities and towns. There are information kiosks where you go over to and touch it to find out where you can get burgers or whatever. Those same information kiosks, in many cases, can present alerts from IPAWS. The alerts that go through the system are geo-targeted, tightly geo-targeted. The alerting authority figures out where they want to send them. They send them, and they go out with all that addressing information there. Distribution of IPAWS alerts is through private industry partners. Most prominent is probably, and most visible are the wireless service providers that connected to cell phones. Also, like I said, every radio, TV station, and cable operation. We have 12 tribes signed up. This map's a little bit out of date because there's a very large block of Oklahoma that's served by the Chickasaw Nation that was added after this map was made. And I offer my thanks to them for working, and it was probably the fastest transaction we've had with a tribal nation. They were ready, and we of course offer the tribes the opportunity to read over the paperwork, pass it around for proper deliberation. We sent the paperwork out to the Chickasaw Nation. It came back in about 15 minutes. I was very happy and surprised. Hopefully they have not had to use it in the meantime, but it's there. They can send an alert. They don't have to talk to the state. They don't have to talk to the county. If their public safety department or emergency management deems that it's necessary to notify people in and near the reservation, in any part of those 13 counties, they can do it right now. They don't have to ask anybody. It doesn't require any special approval. It's all built into the system. You can use iPaws for a whole bunch of different things. Unfortunately, a lot of folks have been using them for wildfires and flooding and things like that. But anything that comes up where you need to reach out, or your emergency services personnel need to reach out to the people to improve their safety or to help recover. This is the part that keeps me doing iPaws. I've taken phone calls early on in the system. I've taken phone calls at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night from people who were early on were having difficulty sending alerts. And I helped one agency in North Dakota send an alert and found out that somebody carjacked a car at a service station. When the mom went in to pay for the gas, somebody hopped in the car and took off. They didn't realize there was a baby in the back. And they were trying to figure out what to do about that. They called. I provided them with some assistance. 20 minutes later, the person that was driving the car, his phone went off. He said, "Oh, this is no good. I don't mind a rap for stealing a car, but I'm not into abduction." He turned himself into a fire station. That's why I do this. These are 3 alerts that were sent by Emily Sitting Bull of the MHA tribe. They all represent successful recoveries. When you need to send an alert, when you need to notify people, and time is of the essence, it's very important that your tribal nation has access to iPaws. You don't have to go to the state to ask for help sending something out and explain it to them. You don't have to talk to a city. Your people can send it out, and it goes to the public immediately. If you have questions, we don't necessarily have time for questions right now. I'm wearing an obnoxious orange shirt. You'll be able to find me. I will be around. I would be very happy to help you. I would be very happy to personally assist any tribal nation that wants to apply for iPaws through the application process. It's not all that complicated. There's a requirement for an MOA. There's a requirement for telling us what kind of alerts you want to send and how you want to send them, and a training requirement. That's it. You'll also need some alerting software to plug into our system. There's no cost to send an alert from iPaws. There's no cost to users for receiving alerts from iPaws. Thank you very much. I'll probably be hanging out at Bambi's table out in front if she'll let me.